And we'll get to that because I do have a dose of hopium for you guys. And maybe, I'm going to hit this button. Maybe that's an excellent segue into talking about why now is the time of all times to be politically engaged, okay? We need to be on guard and on the ball for what is coming down the pipeline here. Because frankly, guys, we can't we can't stop. And this is one of the things that is really, really important to understand, guys. One of the things that Trump had when he came into power in 2016 was a pretty big advantage in Congress. Specifically, he had a 2-vote majority in the Senate, and he had a 13-vote majority in the House. This time he's coming in with what is, I believe, a 3-vote majority in the Senate, and he's going to only have, for like the first 100 days, a 1-vote majority in the House. Okay? What that means is anything that needs to go through Congress, anything that needs to go through Congress, which would include stuff like those insane tariffs. Because I bet you dollars to donuts, if he's trying to just do blanket tariffs like he's been proposing for a while, that has to go through Congress. There's not really a precedent for it to not go through Congress. And stuff like that, dead in the water if you only need to peel 1 vote away. And the reason we only need to peel, 2 votes. It needs to be 2 votes in the House or 3 votes in the Senate. Right? Because 4 votes in the Senate. Sorry. The math is complicated. It's late. You guys understand what I mean. And the reason the margins are so close in the House is specifically because he appointed several people who were in Congress already, meaning that those seats are vacant. Okay? And it is really important it is really important here because that means we only need to get 4 Republicans in the Senate to defect, or we only need to get 2 to defect in the House. Okay? That's a really, really big deal. Because Republicans are weak. They're spineless. And ultimately, there are factories in like their districts. There are businesses that they are beholden to in their districts that support them. And if those tariffs go through, they're all fucked. And very similarly, there are a lot of things that Republicans have individual interests in opposing. For example, well, they're probably going to try and carve out exceptions to mass deportations. Because that would absolutely decimate businesses in rural conservative districts. Because they rely on undocumented immigrants. All right? On top of that, yes, Dragonfly, I'm just giving that as an example of something that potentially could be undermined. But when we're looking at the House, it's only 2 votes, at least until those seats are filled. Once those seats are filled, then it's like 4 votes in the House. But keep in mind, that's going to take like at least like the first 100 days. Well, maybe like the first 75 days to do. So essentially, Trump is not going to be able to get much done through Congress, largely due to the fact that you're going to be able to find 1 to 5 Republicans to defect to block legislation. Okay? But that is also dependent on you guys. Okay? Now is the time to start pressuring your senators. Start pressuring your congressmen. And you know what? I don't know if you guys know this, but even if you're not a constituent of one of those senators or congressmen, you can still call them. You can actually still call them and complain and put pressure on them. If you do that, it can work. All right? Like, this this means that there are actual avenues here to block appointments. Granted, we need to pressure a number of Republican senators, but like when we're looking at someone like Kash Patel, can I call from Europe? Genuinely, I have no idea. I think you probably can. But when we're looking at confirmations, there is a path to blocking those confirmations. When we're looking at legislation, there is a path for blocking that legislation. What that means is now is absolutely not the time to be complacent with any kind of with any kind of hopelessness or despair. Because what we need to do is essentially the equivalent of bullying. We need to bully Republican congresspeople into voting against the worst excesses that are coming down the pipeline. Because we can do that, guys. That is a possibility that we can pursue. All right? And this is an excellent piece from Vanity Fair here. This is no time for cynicism. Because guess what, guys? About to finish school for welding. I'm worried that Elon's going to put OSHA on the chopping block. How likely is that to happen? Well, keep in mind that Elon Musk is not going to be heading a government agency. Doge is not, I believe, is not an official governing body of anything. So, frankly, I do think they're going to want to get rid of OSHA. But I also think that there are maybe some compelling interests that will keep OSHA in place. Largely because just getting rid of OSHA doesn't mean you can't sue your employer. So, that being said, yeah, Doge is one of those things where it would require Congress to act if you wanted to make it an official department. And I don't think anyone in Congress loves Elon Musk enough to do that. Okay? And when we're looking at, what we've been looking at with resisting tyranny or resisting authoritarianism, one of the things that allows authoritarianism to thrive is very specifically inaction and obeying in advance. Okay? Very specifically, checking out and just going back to grilling, that's how things get worse. So if we are aware of ways that we can help, we can move forward, we can push forward, we can apply pressure, that is what will keep kind of a leash on what happens in the future here. Here we go. See. Okay. It's worth pausing to appreciate that Patel made Trump the king in this children's book in case that wasn't completely obvious. But more than just being a stylistic sycophant poised to give the president-elect a rubber stamp, Patel has that Project 2025 vibe to him, the dismantle the government from the inside out thing. According to the Wall Street Journal, Patel suggested that the Bureau had become too powerful and that he would strip it of its intelligence-gathering role and purge it of its employees who refused to go along with Trump's agenda. Appointing MAGA Republicans to lead agencies they plan to disassemble is one of the tropes of Trump's second term, etc., etc., etc. Right? And guys, the people who are being selected are cartoonishly unqualified and cartoonishly suited for the dismantling of the government itself, right? And specifically, and if you're like a leftist who's like, oh, it's good, we don't need the FBI. The reason they're dismantling the FBI is not to get rid of the entirety of the FBI. They're dismantling it so that they can rebuild it as specifically a tool for their authoritarian fantasies. Okay? The cabinet is unironically going to fall apart. Oh, absolutely. It's going to be worse than like a high school clique. Okay. Yeah. Here is this part. Trump has historically bullied Republicans into doing what he wants, but in a 53-47 Senate, he can only afford to lose 3 senators in trying to get his cabinet picks confirmed, given that J.D. Vance would be the tiebreaker in a 50-50 vote. Some who would be swayed, include Maine's Susan Collins, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, and North Carolina's Tom Tillis, which sucks because we had to, like, really pray that Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Tom Tillis would come through last time around, and it sucked. But you know what? One thing that is good about the fact that, you know, it's like 3 swing votes here really narrows the field for who you can call and apply pressure to, okay? These are the people you should be up their ass on the phone lines, like, every single day. You know, if you know that there is important legislation coming up, call them, flood their phone lines, you know, protest outside their offices, you know, do that, especially if you're a constituent. But even if you're not, do it anyway. Suggestions on how to frame letters to my Dem congressperson and senators. They're already leftish. I mean, I think that really any kind of framing you give it will be effective, because frankly, just the act of getting letters is enough to, like, make these people quake in their boots, because it takes effort to mail a letter. It takes effort to call on the phone. When people are expending that kind of effort, it gets noticed by staffers. It gets noticed by the politicians themselves, okay? And, like, pay attention to how Republicans are positioning themselves regarding Trump, because there are going to be niches where Republicans are trying to carve out, like, identities for themselves for future political maneuvers, right? And some of them are going to be more or less positive to Trump. Pay attention to the ones that are less positive, okay? Because frankly, in Trump world, being less than positive about Trump is basically tantamount to complete and utter betrayal, all right? And they know that. They know that. So pay attention and apply pressure. Call those senators. Call those Congress people. All right? Send letters, don't call. Their voicemails get filled quickly. Do both. Do both. Okay? Yeah, faxing also does unironically work. All right. Yeah, even this piece in Vanity Fair mentions Timothy Snyder's on tyranny. Yale historian Timothy Snyder's second rule of fighting autocracy is defend institutions, which he writes help us preserve decency. Snyder adds, they need our help as well. Do not speak of our institutions unless you make them yours by acting on their behalf. Institutions do not protect themselves, so choose an institution you care about and take its side. These Republican senators have the constitutional power of advice and consent, a responsibility we should hold them to, especially if Trump tries to opt for recess appointments to get uncomfortable nominees into positions of great power. And there is a chance that Donald Trump may attempt that, but my understanding is that Republican senators are very much opposed to this. Guys, honestly, I see a lot of you being like, my senators are, you know, they're really bad. Contact the ones that are vulnerable then, you know? Contact the ones that are vulnerable, even if you're not a constituent. You can do that. They will care more if you're a constituent, generally. But you can approach them and, like, protest them and call them and fax them, even if you are not one of their direct constituents. I'm worried that senators are going to say they oppose this and then let it slide anyway. That's why you have to be loud. You can't take them at their word. You have to hound them. This is not a hound them until they say the right thing and then stop. If you're taking that away from what I'm saying, you're wrong. What I'm trying to say is absolutely get up their assholes about this nonstop until the day that they actually have to commit themselves to a vote. Okay? you need to do that. That is, we're talking systematic bullying of politicians. You know, like that's what you need to do, right? You need to bully them. Obviously within the bounds of the law, etc., etc. But like, you know what I mean. I just think that a lot of people after the election kind of gave up, right? But we need to weaponize our most annoying traits. The most annoying among us need to rise up and use that power for good. If you've been honing your snark and honing your posting skills for years, finally apply it in a way that could tangibly affect our politics. Write letters, send emails, call them, fax them. Do it every day. If you have like form letters that you make, you can send them to every single politician. You can fax every single politician. Do it. No, don't give them wedgies. That is actually assault. Also, don't throw spitballs at them. That's also assault. But you can condemn them. You can put pressure on them verbally and through dialogue. Are you autistic in a way that annoys government employees regularly? We need your help. We're recruiting you. But no, yeah. Like, guys, let me just pull this up here, okay? Let me just pull this up here real quick. Here is a list of all the members of the US Senate and their phone numbers. Okay, I'm going to post this link into chat. This is not doxing. This is just from the senate.gov website. Just posting this so that all of you have access to this info. Go call. You can call these people. Okay? You can fax them. These are not like god kings that exist on some hovering cloud, okay? These are real human beings who have actual finite lifespans, believe it or not, and who also have a finite amount of time during the day, and that is time that you can take up by sending them emails, by calling their offices, by faxing them, by sending them letters. And frankly, we need that. We need every single one of these Republicans that are in a tipsy-turvy position to basically be like Jimmy Stewart at the end of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington every single day they come to the office, just drowning in letters, okay? That's what we need. We need them to really understand, tangibly, that, like, people hate the possibility of what they could do, and that there are going to be ramifications if they go through with it. Yes, we are talking activism, baby. Now, that isn't to say you shouldn't like go out and protest in the streets. Also do that. I believe in you guys. Most of you are fully grown adults. Some of you older teenagers, young adults. But you can protest too. You can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time here, guys. And I know I feel like I'm really hammering this home over and over again in a way that is maybe frustrating to some folks. You need to get involved with your local Democratic Party. You need to get involved with your local DSA. Okay, if you find the local Democratic Party unpalatable for whatever reason, go to your DSA meetings, okay? Because frankly, the people who wield the most power in the political party, in the leftist organizing sphere, they're the people who just show the fuck up to meetings, okay? It's boring sometimes. It might not feel like you're getting much headway done sometimes, but guess what? When you're in the room, you actually have input. When you're not in the room, you don't. Okay? So you need to be in the room for those local Dem meetings. Get put into positions in the local Democratic Party, because that's the way you move up. That's the way we take it over. You actually have to get involved. You have to put on your pants, get out there, and do the work. And 90% of the work is just showing up to the goddamn meetings. Okay? I swear to God, it is 90% of the entire thing. It's just showing up and having a pulse. You gotta have a pulse too. You gotta do both. And a lot of us can't get into the room of these Republican senators, congresspeople, etc. But the closest we can come to that is calling them, sending them mail, sending them faxes, emails, etc. Go do that. Yeah, I mean, Dragonfly is a great example. All she had to do was show up, and she got to write part of the platform for the state level Democratic Party, just by showing up to meetings. Guys, that's real power. That is real power. And you get it just by fucking showing up. How do you manage a 9 to 5 and go to Dem meetings? Look, I can't schedule it for you. But usually the meetings are in the evenings. You go there after work. You grab a few friends, go there after work, get drinks after. Like, Dragonfly's meetings are at 7 o'clock in the evening once a month. If you can make time for like a 2-hour meeting once a month in the evening, you can have a seat at the table and actually make a difference in your local political sphere. And that's 90% of you. That's 90% of the work. And if you're like, oh, well, that's too much. Well, then it's too much for you. But you know what? For someone else, it might not be. And for those of you who it might not be too much work, show up to the goddamn meeting once a month. You can do it. Yeah, you're not the only one at DSA or the Democratic meeting who has a 9 to 5 job. I promise. What if I'm a nervous wreck when I show up? That's the best part. You don't have to talk, really. If you want to just show up, you can just show up for the first few meetings and not really interact at all. Get the lay of the land. But by showing up, you can get so much done. Most people don't say anything. Yeah. It's because 90% of the work is showing up. I might be really harping on about this, guys, but like, genuinely, if let me see, how many people are watching right now? Just out of curiosity. It's 1 o'clock. It's 1:30 in the morning. All right. How many people are watching this stream right now in total? Well, like 225 people. If you guys showed up to your local Democratic meetings, we could, like, this stream could honestly be one of the more influential streams in politics. And I'm not goofing you. I'm not making that up. You guys can make so much of a difference just by showing up to the meeting. And also, guess what? I know a lot of you are lonely and isolated. This is one of the ways to undo that. This is one of the ways to connect with people in your community. Oh, yes. Non-binary, you are also correct. When you are reaching out and talking to congresspeople or senators, you might hate them. Be firm, be serious, but be polite. One of the worst things you can do is send something that may be construed by a negative actor as like a threat. Don't do anything that even remotely resembles that. Yeah, they don't listen to threats or angry yellers. You want to make yourself seem like the most reasonable constituent they have that is showing up day after day. Also, if you need help writing your letters, your emails, or even like a call script um, for sending out to Congresspeople, reach out to Dragonfly in the Discord. She has very graciously offered to help anyone write letters or faxes or emails, etc. So please reach out to Dragonfly in the Discord, and it's genuinely important. Do it. You can make such a big difference. For fellow social anxiety folks, or even those with super busy schedules, a lot of local chapters even do virtual meetings. True! It's true! I will say I've met some of my best friends while doing organizing and activism. Exactly. It's all connected, but like I want you guys to be politically effective. It's not, and I've been there, and I know that there are some people who come into this thinking that it is enough to be correct on the issues, and that learning more is helps you make sense of the world, and that is great. But we're in a time of increased responsibility. It's not enough to simply understand how things work. It's not enough to simply understand that things are getting worse. It's not enough. We actually have to do something. We actually have to like take that next step that might make us a little bit uncomfortable, which is to put ourselves out there and start doing the work. You guys have been showing up to my stream for years now, some of you. Some of you for almost 5 years now. And it's time for us to take what we have learned and start putting it into practice. So that's kind of where we're at. How can I find my local meeting calendar? Usually your local Democratic Party will have their own webpage, and also your local DSA will have a webpage. Here is the chapter list that GamerG has very... oh my goodness, that is such a long link. All right, this is a much shorter link. There you go. So, cool. There we go. Go search for that. I do not have access to all of your local Democratic chapters. I'm sorry. You will have to do that part yourselves. I believe in you guys. But DSA chapters all on one lovely page. So anyway, don't despair. Get to work. We got this.